Hey family, how y'all doing? Welcome to the new channel. Hopefully everything is okay. And I just want to welcome y'all, introduce myself again, and hoping that again we get a new look and new subject matter and different topics that we should deal with in terms of human beings. Sometimes you just get tired of talking about the race situation. You get tired of talking about the police situation and how we are treated. And with this channel, what I plan on doing is allowing us to open up and talk about our dysfunction. Because that seems to be the number one uh, component that crosses all racial, economic, and any other construct that you want to put on it. When you start talking about family dynamics, because there are no perfect families. So hopefully, my intent, no, there's no hopefully to it. What we gonna do with this channel, it's almost like it's the mental house, okay? And in this house, we are going to be allowed to talk freely about shit that you may think has stagnated you in your life, things that may have hindered you, whether you were the culprit of it or whether it was done to you. Because either way it go, I believe hurt people hurt. So usually when you start tracing stuff back, there's always some kind of family dynamic or parental component to it that we are just totally dismissing. Nobody just shows up like they are. So those are the things I want to explore with the new channel. Those are the things that I'm hoping that y'all gonna join me and we can open up and discuss, because there's a lot of hurt going on. There's a lot of damage that has been done, and we can see it every time we look out into the communities, into the human family at large. Again, this definitely supersedes all racial, gender, and economic social status. It's a human problem. Family dysfunction. Now, of course, I got to be the first person that lead off, because you have to lead to somewhat. You have to lead. I want to lead the channel off, is what I should be saying. Since it's my page, I think I should probably be the first person to allow my truth to come out and be put out there for somebody to hopefully not judge, but to understand that I'm not responsible for the cards that I was dealt in life. I'm just kind of responsible for playing a hand, trying to do the best possible job I can do with the hand I was dealt, and hope that I win the hand. So that is how I kind of look at my life. Now, again, I am going to discuss that further. I want to make sure that it is a situation that we all feel comfortable about, in terms of exposing certain parts of ourselves. I don't expect anybody to just get up here and just ramble all about their life. If they choose to do that, that's fine. But what I'm saying is, I would rather think about the things that you have in your life that has kept you stuck, the things that have stopped you from moving forward in some shape, form, or fashion. With me, again, I'm gonna start with myself, and as I said, I'm gonna make it as in depth as I possibly can with a short period of time. I was very close with my dad growing up. I was more of a daddy's girl. I have, I think, 7 brothers. Yes, one is dead, but I have 7 brothers, and I'm the only girl. So you can imagine what that was like. There was just a lot of hope. There was a lot of prayer for me to be here, um, there was just a dynamic in the family where they said, I don't want to have any more boys, just hope the next one is a girl. Voila, here I am. Now, with that being said, there was a lot of pressure put on me, first of all, for just being that only girl. You can imagine. Well, my father and I were very close. I thought the first man that I fell in love with was my dad. Usually when the father is leading in a correct way, and I don't mean that in an incestuous type of way. I mean, he led by example. He ran a newspaper. In fact, he was Malcolm X's hand-pointed minister for his Muslim Mosque Incorporated when Malcolm first left the Nation of Islam. So I have a lot of history with that particular organization as a child. So you can imagine the kind of family that I grew up in. My father was very active in civil rights and power to the. Now I'm not gonna say civil rights because he wasn't. It was more like independence for yourself and entrepreneurship, and it was during the civil rights era. So, in fact, I think there's a book that speaks to a lot of my father's activity. It's called Selma of the North. I can't think of the author right now, but that book displays a lot of my father's early activities, and you can see it all there. However, I've regressed, so I want to move forward. So I grew up being daddy's girl. I remember my dad taking dinners and things down to the people that were less fortunate. They lived under the bridge, and I remember on Sundays I would be all dressed up, and I looked like some princess out of a movie. But my dad would have his suit on, and we would go down under the bridge and feed these guys like Huckabuck and Jeffrey and Joe, Old Man Joe, things like that. My father was a very thoughtful young man, a very ambitious young man. So, again, I was so close to my dad because I thought he understood me and he allowed me to have my own autonomy. Something that my mother just found impossible, it seemed to do. At that time, that's how I felt about my father. It seemed like my mother was just so nitpicky about everything, manic. And she was always making these faces that would have me terrified that I was doing something wrong. Okay, that's just how I see my mom. Well, the same things that I ended up loving my father about as I grew older, I know that in Islam, most men do adhere to the fact that they're going to take care of their daughters until they get married. Well, in my case, I knew I wasn't going to be married. I knew there was a lot of other things that I didn't even want to share with my father because as time grew on, I really realized that I couldn't share these things with him and really have his love. So with that being said, I already knew, I'm starting to understand now that this love is really fake because it's predicated on what you want me to be and not what my life really is. So that's very devastating to a child because as you grow up and you see that and you know that you cannot be your authentic self. And that's what I thought my father represented, like I said, as a young girl. So I fast forward, not married, having a baby. My father could not handle the fact that I was almost 30 years old and I was pregnant. So with that being said, he decided that he gave me an ultimatum. Actually, he told me that either I should have an abortion or he would never speak to me again. And I really couldn't believe, I didn't want to take him serious, but he was. He told me that if I didn't have an abortion, he would never speak to me again. And that was 1989, and we really haven't had a conversation since. Okay? Now, the dysfunction and the damage that has done to me has made me very angry because I realized that there was an illusion that I was living with my father. It's a lot of damage. So I have since come to the realization that my mother and my father are serious narcissists. I never knew that. I never knew what that meant. I don't know what the, hell that's, what that terminology means. But what I do know is they damaged me and my siblings, whether my siblings will admit it or not. But because I want to be the best person I can be, I have to realize that the narrative that my parents set up for me was totally crazy. There was no honesty in the family. There was no, if anybody was ever to confront somebody about something in the family, it would be usually done in a negative way. There was abuse, verbally, emotionally, mentally, and even physically abuse, in my home. And all this was normal for us. So most families, when they grow up with a certain amount of discipline, they think that that's the way it's supposed to be. And especially when you have parents that are overly religious, like mine were. They were religious, but yet, again, out of touch with the emotional development of their children. Because again, they were young and they were in their own shit, and there's no way in the world that they could have been available emotionally and mentally and spiritually or anything for their children. So what we got is either you behave like this particular soldier and be this particular type of person, and this is the narrative that I want you to live out loud before the world, and if you deviate from it, boy, you certainly gonna wish you wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? You certainly gonna wish you. That's where that old saying come from. Just wait till we get home. Okay. So I'm saying that to say, I have a healthy, beautiful daughter who is 26 years old. I'm about to be a grandma any day now. I'm looking forward to that in a new chapter in my life. I have a mother who is still alive at 82, and my dad is still alive at 80, I'm sorry. And at 83, my dad is still alive. Again, I haven't talked to him since 1989, 1990. Yeah, 1989. So, with that being said, I believe that that's epitome. I'm gonna start with the head. That's epitome of dysfunction. There is nothing that my daughter could ever do to me that make me not want to speak to her ever again. Short of murdering somebody, and then I still don't think I could never talk to her again. There's no way in the world I couldn't think of anything that a person that I produced, that I'm responsible for being on the face of the earth, that they could do, that I would never want to speak to them again. And in fact, the only thing that probably, in my opinion, merits something like that is if my offspring did do something like that. Brutally murder, kill somebody to the point, like a Jeffrey Dahmer. Somebody I'm so embarrassed of. And his parents didn't even turn their back on him. But here we are in the black community. Oops, I said I wasn't going to go there. But here we are as individuals who can have parents that are so narcissistic, so selfish, so corrupt. Because who was that person to play God? Who was that person to play God? I remember a story about my father one time. He was having an affair. And my father was a real civil rights, activist in uplifting black people and just the whole 9 yards. And my father was having an affair on my mother. And the crazy part about this affair that he was having, it was with a woman of a different race. My father used to pick us up from school, myself and my brother, and these two children that he was having an affair from would sit in the front seat of the car with my dad, and my dad would make us sit in the back seat. These are the and I had totally blocked these little incidents out of my mind as a child because I had such a love affair with my dad. And when I started thinking about the dysfunction and the really horrible things that my father did to us, I had to get a reality check very fast to say, wow, we really are dysfunctional. And as black people, and as people period, we need to get a hold to some of these things before we can ever be good in relationships, good as partners, or whatever it is that we seeking to be in our lives. We got to get a hold and get a grip onto the damage and the craziness that our parents have exposed us to. And if they have exposed us to craziness, then you already know that we've done the same thing to our children to some degree. And so it's our job to clean it up. We're not responsible for the cards that we dealt. But again, you got to play the hand, and you got to play to win. Thank y'all for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. We'll talk.